fellas. I was going to talk a little bit about Chris Aceto. Everybody knows Chris Aceto for his work as a bodybuilding guru, along with George Farah, Andy Rambod, Dave Palumbo, Dennis James. The list is endless. You got basically former bodybuilders, some more successful than others. A lot of these guys will become gurus, after their bodybuilding is over. Most of these guys were not like premium or premier bodybuilders, but they were pretty decent bodybuilders with great physiques. The thing about Chris is he kind of falls in that category too. So back in the day, this guy had a pretty decent physique. He was on the cover of a lot of magazines here and there. Had a pretty good physique along with his wife Laura Crevaille, however you pronounce it. But this guy had a pretty decent vacuum on him, and I think his major blessing was his thighs. The guy had some killer legs, killer thighs. The upper body was pretty dang good. His arms were maybe a little overpowered by his legs, but certainly a great physique. For a non-Olympia level, non-high tier amateur level bodybuilder. Again, this guy's worked with a lot of the top names in bodybuilding over the last 25 years. As a contest prep guru, off-season guru as well. These guys will give advice, on everything from the minerals to diet. There's a lot of it. Huge part of it, of course. Training. These guys kind of do it all. But most bodybuilders today will work with the guru, so to speak, to bring somebody in at least to help them out. It's a lot of work these days. There's a lot of things to remember. Times have changed over the last 30 years. I mean, these guys are taking and doing some crazy stuff nowadays. So you got to know what you're talking about a little bit. But I'd like to draw attention, to his physique. At this point, and like pretty crazy vacuum on this guy. You see a lot of that from back in the day, in the 90s. Some of these guys had some pretty good vacuums, late 80s and 90s. Chris was one of those guys, outstanding biceps. Right, you can kind of hear him. It's 1992, by the way. You can listen to him speak. He's on RX Muscle a lot, on the round table type thing. Pretty interesting stuff. He's got his own delivery style, so like we all do. But here's another great pic showing off those thighs. Man, look at those things. They're about as big, as wide as his shoulders it's pretty crazy. So this guy knows his stuff as far as getting people prepped for contests. Kind of old school, he does it old school, versus a lot of the newer guys that have gotten into being gurus. Obviously, if he can get himself into this kind of shape, obviously he knows a lot about what's going on. Again, I think he's worked with Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, back in the day. And the list is probably a mile long of people that he's worked with, but he's got some interesting insights on a lot of things. I think he deals more with carb fluctuations and that kind of thing. Some guys will deal with fat manipulation. I think Dave Palumbo was more about ketosis, that kind of thing. But and certainly Dave in the day was one of the most shredded bodybuilder. That guy was a freak. So there's a bunch of ways to do it. Let's check this one out here. That's a pretty good pic. Great chest on him, nice abs. He's pretty cut up. Obviously pretty young in that pic, but I just thought I'd do a little video on Chris Aceto. There's a lot of literature out there, stuff he's written, and you can see him on RX Muscle a lot of times. So it's pretty interesting to listen to these guys. Obviously top guys come to him on a consistent basis. So